Hey, I'm Traveling John, and I'm going to travel and sketch. Join me on the adventure. This is, again, a map of our travel and sketch adventures in Europe. Many of you have seen this before, but this is basically a wrap-up. It's the last vlog I'm doing on this. For those of you that have not seen it, I've done a number of them before this on each city that you see in bold type. And we started out in Copenhagen, went to the left in Leiden and traveled around to all these cities. The last one we visited was Stockholm, and now this one we've returned to Copenhagen to catch our flight back to California. So we're at the end of our day visiting Copenhagen, and we're on the outskirts of Copenhagen, right near the water, lots of sailing boats. We're in a little fishing village and enjoying this peaceful place. I think we've seen one car going along these little cobblestone streets, a lot of beautiful thatch roofed homes and tile roofs along with them. And the gardens, magnificent. So it's so nice and peaceful and quiet and cool. Wonderful way to end the day. And of course to end our video series on our trip to Europe. So the next thing to do is a color rendition of the black and white sketch that I did on the last video. And we're going to wrap that up, and of course this adventure. Those pictures gave you a viewing of the fishing village that we enjoyed right outside the city of Copenhagen in Denmark. Now, the last vlog I did an ink-line sketch inspired by that fishing village. Now I'm going to be adding color in this vlog to that ink-line sketch, but I'm not going to be doing it directly to the ink-line sketch. What I've done is I digitally copied the ink-line sketch. I applied it to a software program, and within that software program I'm going to be doing the color work. And I'm going to be doing it in a unique way this time, unlike some of the ways I've done it in the past vlogs. But the first thing I did was to make a watercolor not only for the sky, which you'll see in a moment, but also for a texture that I'm going to be using on those buildings below the sky. So, oh, by the way, when I say texture, what I mean to say is the watercolor flowing over the texture of the paper. I'm going to pick that up, and that's what I'm going to be using to give the texture to the walls, the cobblestone street, and even the sea. So Stay with me, I hope, through this process that you'll be seeing momentarily. This is the sketch that I finished in the last vlog, and I've put it on my computer now in a software program where I can apply the color. And in this case, I'm going to be doing it a little bit different than the methodology I've used in the past. Now, first of all, I like to share what I'm doing with other people because sometimes their input is invaluable. You get really involved in some artwork and you fail to see balance sometimes, or you fail to see the compositions not working quite right. Now, one of my best people to ask concerning this is my wife. So I took this illustration finished in color to my wife and showed her the piece of work, and she said with the color application to the man that you see in the center, it was just overwhelming that everything was centering on him. Now in the black and white sketch that's not so true because because of the application of color, it just made him stand out. It's hard to explain, except that's the situation. So what I did is I went back into the sketch and I took out the man. So this is what it looks like without him in it, but still the black and white sketch. And of course, that's one of the advantages you have when you're working with pixel art. And this is a reproduction of the black and white sketch in the computer, so I'm easily able to redo the artwork in the pixelation form to get that man out. And anyway, I could go up closer to you and you'll see that it's very hard outside of the ink line to see any indication that there was a man there. So let me get back, fit on screen. And now the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit different than what I've done before, and that is that I'm going to show you my goal in doing this artwork. And in order to do that, I'm going to show you the finished artwork in color. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to show this as a fishing village in the morning with the fog coming or dissipating out of it with the warmth of the morning sun. And you might think you might guess it's maybe 9 or 10 o'clock. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and that's approximately the time when our summer fog would burn off, was around 9 or 10 o'clock during the day. So you can sort of imagine, I'm trying to picture this beautiful fishing village and the fog at night, and now it's beginning to dissipate with the warmth and the sun. But it's still early enough and dark enough so that there's somebody needed a light in their room. You can see that in the bottom left-hand corner. So I included that in the artwork. And of course you can see I've colored in all the different parts of it. And I really wanted that sailboat to stand out in the distance with the color application. So that's why I made sure that that sail was white with the sun coming down on it, or the light through the clouds. So now, as you can see, is I've applied the watercolor that you saw me making earlier. It's predominantly the sky, but as you can see, there's texture. Let me get that here. There's texture of that watercolor coming down, and that texture continued throughout the whole artwork. And I didn't color that texture in the watercolor itself because I wanted to use that texture in each different color, and I wanted to apply color to that texture in the different areas that I used it in. But still, on the original watercolor, it went all the way down. It encompassed the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off a viewing of that finished artwork, and I'm going to go through each step of what I did. It's not particularly in the order that I used, but it's the best way of explaining to you what I did. Now, you can see all the layers here. I've actually named them all, and I also created a lot of paths. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Photoshop software, you can make paths in this artwork and pixelated artwork, and you can select that path. And in this case, all the paths that I did on this artwork were consistently a feather radius of 7. And that gave me that soft edge, which I wanted to continue with the watercolor effect. So this, as you can see, is the area that I'm coloring in. And now that it's going, this is what the coloration looked like. You can see it went up that very interesting chimney that looks like it was with bricks made to look like a spiral. And I sort of wish that it still had that brick look, but most all the chimneys and the homes were all this yellow color. I think it was almost sort of like a given requirement for the older homes when we were there, that they decided that they should all be the same color. I don't know historically if it was that way. It probably was. They were all white instead. So I'm going to deselect those lines going around here there. But if you notice in some of my former vlogs, you can see how I used the path tool to create the artwork the way I wanted. It's explained in other vlogs. I'm not going to go in detail on this because it's quite involved. Now, the next thing I wanted to do was the texture of that wall. So now remember, if I told you before that I picked up the texture from the watercolor. So this is the application of the texture, and that texture actually came, I'm going to come up closer to it so you can see it better. It actually came from the watercolor itself. I not only, I'm gonna bring down some white backing so you can see it without the color behind it. These are all these layers go down. Okay, let me turn it on. Okay, so there is the texture. You can see it has a soft edge around it that I wanted. And now you can see what it looks like over the color itself. It just gives it a little bit more artistic and arty feeling to it. So now I'm going to take that back up. I'll probably drop it down again later just to show you some more of the work. We'll pick that, make that viewing back and fit on screen. So we're back. We've done the color for the buildings and also the chimneys. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the coloration I used for the older straw that's on these roofs. When we were there, as you probably saw earlier in the vlog, it was a wet day and rain had come down on all the roofs, so the straw was quite dark. I imagine on some very warm summer days it's not quite as dark, but I'm going to be consistent as close as I want to be to that darkness feeling. Now I'm also preparing a little bit for the idea that there's going to be a fog coming in here, the look of the fog as you've already seen. So I'm not worrying too much about finishing off detail on the edge because that's going to be hidden as we go up to that. Now once again I put some texture in there, and the texture again is just something from the watercolor, and it's consistent. The size and the effect is consistent with the sky, so it all blends together as one piece. I haven't done different things with those. Again, all these layers from the rooftop, and I can't. Okay, the reason I can't understand why I can't see why. Oh, I see, because I had it locked. All these layers are on multiply. There we go. And I want to keep it there, so I'm going to lock it again. I don't want to take a chance on ruining the finished artwork when I'm trying to talk and give it this during this presentation. The next thing I did was I put in the lawn. Now, you notice that when I put the lawn in, parts of it came out. And I'll explain to you later why that's true. And the same with the yellow wall. Parts of that have come out, and the shutters and the trees, the bushes, all those things have come out, even though I didn't, in some cases, I didn't necessarily have a path that took them out. I didn't need that, and I'll explain to you why later. I did the little red bottom boat. I wanted to keep it red. Again, right now it's pretty strong, but you'll see when I add a little fog in, it's going to be more subtle. Now, these roofs on these homes, some of them were tile and some of them were the straw. And I like that, and in this case, this is a partial, and some of them were partial too. I almost wonder if they put the straw right over a tile roof that was beginning to leak. I'm not sure of that, so I'm not going to say that's the reason why. But I think it was great, the creative ways they either used tile or they used the straw throughout this whole fishing village community. So it's consistent, it ties together, and it's really beautiful. Now, another thing that was consistent about this, and you notice down at the bottom that almost all the homes had this black trim at the bottom. This one and that one, and all the house trims were also black. Now, this is extreme white. I'm going to subdue that later, but this is a better example of what it looked like. It was, and you could say, boy, that's foreboding, but actually it was really beautiful. And again, if you look back at the presentation I just showed you, photographs of that village, you'll find it's really enchanting that almost wherever you go, that color combination is used, and it really draws it all together nicely. So I put a window trim in there. Most of the window trims were black, some of them were lighter, but I couldn't keep it black because it just would get totally lost, and I wanted to emphasize it a little bit. The next thing I did was I colored the bikes. And now, when I colored the bikes, I used, again, it's another layer that's on multiply, but I could select that, and I'm going to show you what I did. I'm going to take it off that, and okay, and I'm going to draw closer to it so I can show you what I did. Okay, so I already have that layer colored for the orange bike, and I made a selection. Okay. Oops. I made a selection of just that, and then I reversed it out. I deleted it from all the color that was behind there, both the texture and the solid. So I'm going to deselect that, and I'm going to again lock it. I'm going to go back to viewing, fit on screen. So that's the way I took out that color in the background. And of course that's true also for the blue bike and the white on the bike and the white on this bike. You can see that I not only took it out of the black and the yellow, so that that stands out as chrome. And you'll find also that's the same with the street when I get to that, and that white of the bike. If that's not true when we get to it, I'm going to have to correct it. So, next thing I did was the green foliage. And so you can see I added little flowers, and I also did the green. Again, all this artwork includes the texture from the watercolor, even the lawn. The only thing I don't believe that includes the texture is the solid bikes, the blue, the red, and the orange. The hollyhocks, okay, those were fun. Boy, hollyhocks you see everywhere. That must be one of the most popular flowers in Denmark and Holland. We saw it all over the place, and they're beautiful. Unfortunately, when we were there, they were not in full bloom, so I couldn't get a good photograph of them. But of course, there's always the internet resources to look back at the area and have a good reference with regards to what they look like, and that's where I pulled this from. So forgive me for cheating if I'm not, if you consider it that, but the internet is very, very useful. Next, I did the cobblestones on the street. Oh, excuse me, not the cobblestone, but the gray. I did a gradation in the gray for the streets. I want it to look wet because it's been a wet night with the fog, and but I want it to be lighter in this area because it's picking up the new light from the watercolor that you'll see later as we go through this. I'm sorry, not watercolor, but sky and sun coming through it. So now, this is the actual coloration I put in for the cobblestone. You can see there's not black and white line going on these. Doesn't matter, because again, the fog is going to be hiding those. So when I get to that point, you won't see them. You can see right now that this is really strong color, but I wanted to subdue it. I want to give it that cool morning fog look. So that's going to be coming up. The dock. So I did some more work on coloring the boat, the wood, piers that hold the boat in place and other boats coming in. I did a little work with some little repeat color of the boat there. It's hard to see when it's this small. And here you got the watercolor effect. Now that sort of makes the whole thing bounce a little bit. I'm going to turn it off again so you can see the difference between what it looks like. You can see that the watercolor, the texture, I just let flow into that, except it's different in other areas where it doesn't flow in. So you can see it doesn't affect the houses very much. It affects the tiles, it affects the cobblestone streets, and of course it affects the ocean that's been colored. I mean, it's not ocean, it's actually a sea. So now, this is, again, morning time, and you'll have to imagine it being foggy. And in fact, why don't I turn the fog on right now, okay, so you can get effect. That's the effect I wanted, but I wanted a little bit more life in it. So what I did is I want you to imagine that somebody is just getting ready for the day, maybe a little late, so I put a little light in that window. Now these people are sleeping in, but there is somebody that's awake. And now I wanted to give that little glow in the fog of the light, the yellow light coming out of that house. So I added that too. We got some white edge. Although I have the fog, I want to give this a little bit more soft edge. So I added a white edge going all the way around it. So that way, when this is printed on different items, and as you know, in my gallery, you can print this artwork on anything from a coffee mug to, oh my goodness, so many different items, including, of course, a canvas, You can print it on paper. You can get all archival prints, all high quality art prints. So anyway, go to my website and you'll see that. But because I was hoping that somebody might want to put this on a white background, I wanted it to have a very soft white edge so it could be applied to something with a white background, like and it would just blend right into like a white coffee cup, and it would just come right out in the artwork, in the actual cup itself. So that's pretty much in. Oh, I did want to have a little bit of a feeling of the light coming down on this part of the sea, so I added that along with the sailboats here. One's eye can go right to that exciting person that's on that boat and having fun at the start of the day. Now that you have viewed the process of adding color to the ink line sketch, here's another viewing of the artwork outside of the distraction of the software program. It's a little bit closer. You can see more of this and my art gallery at TravelnSketch.com. So I would really encourage you to go visit that. And also, I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel. It would not only help me, but it will also help you to know the next time I'm going to be doing another vlog. So thanks a lot for joining me on this Travel and Sketch adventure, and come back again for another adventure. Have a great day.